Hello everybody, welcome to this video here on G4G. Today we are in Marvel Future Fight, and I'm going to be giving you a tips and tricks video. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about as we load up is the fact that Android games, including Future Fight, are available to play on your PC. The way that you can do that is to get an Android emulator such as Nox, which you see here, Bluestacks, or HandyAndy, or others. I believe another one of them is called Mimu or something like that. I've never tried that one. I have tried Bluestacks, which then I migrated to HandyAndy, and then I migrated to Nox. I find Nox probably takes the least out of my PC. If you are on weaker PCs or laptops, you might find Nox to be the best. The other thing you want to look into is rooting that Android emulator. By rooting it, you unlock a few things like task killing, so that you can run a very clean Android emulator and kill tasks and applications you don't need running when you have to devote your very critical resources to the Android emulator. Marvel Future Fight takes a little bit out of an Android emulator. I would say a medium amount. It is not the highest amount I've ever seen, but it's also not the lowest. If you have the ability to get a handheld shield or a shield tablet, I highly recommend that for Marvel Future Fight. The reason being is that you can drag virtual controls onto the screen and control Marvel Future Fight as if it were an arcade game. That's right, you can actually control Marvel Future Fight with a controller if you map areas of the virtual screen to controller buttons. The shield, of course, has that natively, but if you do have Bluetooth joysticks or gamepads for your Android device or iOS device, at least with Android you can get an app called the 6-axis controller, which allows the same kind of mapping. It's just that with Shield devices, it's built in. Honestly, the Shield tablets, with their amazing graphics and their Wi-Fi direct gamepads and everything, it really does bring Marvel Future Fight to a completely different experience if you get to do it. So, for this tips and tricks video, I'm going to go through some basics that you need to know about the game and are extremely helpful. We are currently going through a check-in event over here, and the next one for me will be that tier token, or that tier 2 advancement ticket. It's pretty cool. So, two things you really should invest in right off the bat. First of all, getting your VIP level up is really good, as it unlocks some crucial time-saving items. And that is basically autoplay on different levels. The more autoplay you can get, the better it is. So, a lot of people like to turn on the controls for optimal controllability when doing things. This is very good if you're in an alliance or a clan and you're doing AB, and you really need to pay attention when you're doing AB to get high scores, and you want to have the most amount of control. So I would turn this to pad. Auto reaction basically means if you're just standing around and get hit, your heroes immediately start doing stuff. Sleep mode, I'm not too sure what it is. Vibration is good if your tablet or phone supports it. Display type affinity is the rock, paper, scissor thing. Daily biometrics acquired. Stop when you have reached the limit. More on that in a moment. Frame rate speed during auto repeat. I'm not too sure what that is. Adjust V-pad. I think that is allows you to move around where the buttons are. And autoplay, when available, you want to set it to the highest. Push is the notifications, like if somebody opens a rift and stuff. And Facebook is where your cloud sync is. So if you have Android and iOS devices or play on multiple devices, you want to make sure you do a Facebook sync. So, one quick thing to note is that there are dailies in this game, and you want to try to complete them. Dailies have changed over months, but currently we are sitting at clearing a special mission once per day, sending at least one person AP points, assemble points. Villain Siege once per day, PvP once per day, daily once per day, story missions once per day, and when all 6 of these are done, you get your 25. You have weeklies, which you could do in a day if you wanted to. If you had a particularly long session, you can certainly knock out 10 PvP wins in one sitting. Quests are much harder. They just come more naturally and organically, like enhancing 100 chaos ISOs, or enhancing 100 powerful ISOs, or recruiting 25 heroes or villains. I don't know why it only says 22, but I guess I have to wait for 2 heroes because I'm basically maxed out minus the group bosses. So, if you are in an alliance, I myself are in the Adamantium Process Alliance clans and everything. I was in their mid-tier and just recently dropped down to their low-tier one to get good scores for them, and my scores were about medium for the medium group. So by dropping down to the one I'm in, my alliance battles tend to have the ability to like set the curve a little bit. When you do alliance battles have certain categories. And they are, as you'll see here today, before it turns over, it is Universal Day. You have Universal Day, Combat Day, Speed Day, Blast Day, All Female Day, All Villains Day, Everything Goes. Maybe an All Heroes. I don't think there is an All Heroes for alliance battles. Certain people tend to carry your alliance battles and do very, very, very well. I'll discuss those. For Universal Day, Lady Loki, just in general, for anything in the game, you want to get Loki, you want to get him as masteried as possible, as starred as possible, as leveled as possible, and convert Loki to Lady Loki. I'm going to call, because it is Loki, I'm going to call Loki, he's a god, instead of referring to him as a goddess. Loki is an absolute god of the game, massive amounts of damage. You could be almost horrendously overpowered by an enemy team's levels compared to you, and what a very, very well-formed Loki can do is simply amazing because of Loki's abilities. He summons clones which help him do damage. He gets the energy barrier. He is just an extremely powerful DPSer. The damage that Loki puts out, he is well worth every amount of stuff that you can spend on him. So when you get Loki Rifts and everything, and you can dump Universal ISOs on him, you want to do that. Now, I personally like Ultron for a lot of the same reasons. Ultron is not considered high tier by a lot of high-powered people. I just happen to like him because he was very easy to farm his bios for. You could start farming for his bios very early in your gaming career with MFF. So it just naturally, you're going to acquire a lot of Ultron ISOs. And he has some similar skills too, where he has the no strings, which summon the clones of him that wind up tanking a lot of his damage. So it's pretty handy. I also happen to really like Hulkbuster. Again, maybe not somebody that is considered super high tier, but when you get him up, his Barrage Strike and his Arc Reactor Burst just seem to do an exceptional amount of damage. Ones that everybody considers universally good. Sharon Rogers for Blast Day and Female Day. You absolutely want to get a high-powered Sharon as best you can. she is also available to go into Tier 2. Ant-Man for Speed Day is considered very, very good. Another hero you want to spend a lot of time working up. Kingpin starts off as combat, but converts over to blast with this uniform. He is somebody else that you want to spend a lot of time for, especially on Blast Day. Hyperion's also considered pretty solid. I believe he gets very, very good at Tier 2. I happen to really like Elsa, just for the cool factor and the way her abilities get her out of a lot of danger. Same for Sharon. Sharon was considered pretty good. I believe she's dropped a little bit. I just happen to really like Elsa, which is why she's so high for me. But I'm not going to say she's high up on people's power rankings. Captain America, you'll get a lot of ISOs for Captain America early on, and then he kind of peters out. I have him right now as Lady America. There is one uniform that is considered pretty good for him, and that's the Civil War one, because he summons Bucky with one of his abilities, and that helps. Silk is considered very, very good for Female Day, and very, very good for Speed Day. Silk is somebody you want to spend some effort on. Not quite as vanilla as she was in Marvel Avengers Alliance. She's actually a lot better in this game. White Tiger is considered one of the newest heroes that you want to spend some time on. Iron Fist, especially at Tier 2, is considered very, very good for Combat Day. Black Widow is considered very good for Female and Speed Days. Gwenpool is brand new and is getting a lot of high marks for Speed Days and Female Days. Visually, I like Songbird a lot, but she's considered a 1 or 2 trick pony. Wiccan, I never hear anybody talking about Wiccan, but I'm starting to see a lot more of him in PvP than I used to, and at very high levels. He has one very nasty looking ground AoE that seems to cover the whole screen. I don't know how damaging it is, but when you see no safe spot on the screen, you kind of panic and think you're in a lot of trouble. So maybe Wiccan is coming up pretty well in the ranks. And Squirrel Girl haven't heard too much of. I was farming for Electra for a little while. I always thought she was considered pretty good. I don't think she's very high up on people's ranking. Singularity, I just love this effect. I mean, nobody really talks about her, but that is just such a cool graphic. I love I just like looking at Singularity. Ronan is considered very good for Universal. I would really recommend getting his Annihilation or Classic uniform. The reason being is that this uniform adds a stun effect to his hammer charge, and anytime you get a free crowd control in the middle of things, that's always extremely good. Back in the day, people liked Destroyer a lot. Nobody really talks about him anymore. I happen to like Angela in just about every game where she's playable. And I really like this uniform for her. She's finally in the facial area a little bit less harsh in this game than she is in others. I haven't really gotten to use that Angela in a long time. Some people have considered this version of Red Skull good, and also a lot of people kind of like Malekith. He's talked about a little bit, but not a tremendous amount. And of course, if you have the ability to do world bosses, all of these guys are considered very good. I missed a few days at Proxima, so sadly I don't have the ability to level up a Proxima. I don't know what happened there. I just missed a few days. So there is a breakdown of what heroes you really want to work on. What I like to do with my teams is, one of my teams is my highest powered team. They're the ones who do the very, very hard story missions, and they are the ones who do PvP. Arguably, I could be putting Sharon Rogers in this line somewhere, However, she is a little bit lower than these top 3. So for right now, these are my 3. And when Sharon gets a little higher, she'll probably jump in there. Nobody is really a healer in this game, although Groot can heal and Hyperion can heal also to a certain degree. My other teams are my leveling teams with what I like to call a carry. So here, my level 51 Captain Marvel is carrying White Tiger and Songbird in experience runs. Here, my Sharon is carrying Gwenpool and Ant-Man, although Ant-Man actually now could be a carry unto himself. And here, Sharon is carrying Mockingbird and Sif. These are just leveling teams over here. So basically what you could do is you could pick like a very high story mission that you know Sharon can run through. And these two just leech experience while Sharon just runs and does all the work. I think I need to adjust this team slightly, as Ant-Man has now taken over and been ahead of Sharon over here. So you notice these star icons on people. And you will notice with the group bosses over here, this little blue nugget. When you see this blue nugget, that means the person has escalated the hero into tier 2. Not every character in the game has tier 2, but those who are capable of reaching it generally are considered very good. Like example, Sharon Rogers and Ant-Man and Iron Fist have tier 2, and they're considered phenomenal. If we want to take a look at Ultron over here, he is my maxed out character. He's 60, he has 6 stars and 6 stars of mastery. So, what does that mean? So, if we want to look at, let's see, alright, Kingpin over here. I can get his star level from 5 to 6 by farming his biometrics in these 2 chapters. When I get up to 320, he will go from 5 star to 6 star, which is his max. Everybody maxes out at 6 stars. His mastery, which is the red, if you click on mastery, I can up his red star level from 1 to 2 by spending money and spending Norn Stones of Strength. Now, he is 5 stars and 2 mastery stars. Mastery increases your stats and increases the effectiveness of one of the skills that you cannot augment normally. So in this case, King of Darkness was augmented there. When he turns level 6, Criminal Mastermind unlocks. Sometimes things unlock when somebody turns to tier 2. For example, on Sharon, when she gets tier 2, she gets Expert Lancer. That's the tier 2 designation right up there in the upper corner. So that's a basic understanding of heroes. Now, when we say farmable, that means you can do something in the game that you control consistently and can get results. So, for example, Sharon. If I wanted to get Sharon up from 5 stars to 6 stars, I can farm these missions. And that's actually something I think I want to do. I've kind of been ignoring farming for her in favor of other people, but you'll see here 555. So I can get 15 Agent 13 biometrics per day. Some people you can't do that way. So for example, Moon Knight. I have to get his biometrics another way. Some people, they're available through Chaos tokens and Honor tokens, which is PvP, and Villain Siege. For example, Elsa. I can bump up Elsa's biometrics by cashing in Chaos tokens for her. Same thing for Captain Marvel. except she is the PvP tokens. Honor. So, heroes that are farmable. Generally, when you are given free ISOs in the game, or like free speed ISOs or combat ISOs that you can apply to anybody, you generally don't want to apply them to people that you can farm for, because farming is just simply a matter of time. You want to devote the ISOs that you get for free to the heroes that you are not in control of. People like Carnage, or Ant-Man, or Loki. Now, the two best things that any beginner player can get, or any pro high-level player can get, are the two subscriptions, the two daily subs, and I'm going to show you what they are. If you go to the little crystal icon in the store, they're right here. 20 biometrics per day and the Tony Stark stash. In a month's period, you will get 2,450 crystals. You get 200 crystals right off, and then 75 every single day that you log in for 30 days. For just $3.50 for the entire month. That is literally like avoiding Starbucks one time in an entire month, is the cost of the Tony Stark stash. The biometrics are a little bit more. They're $9. That basically amounts to avoiding Starbucks 2 or 3 times in a month. Get these two subs. They are worth it. Now, I realize if you combine them, that's basically $12.50 a month. That's the price of a sub to a premium MMO. Rift is about $10. World of Warcraft is about $15 paid monthly, and about $13 paid on the 3 months, every 3 months. So you could say, do I really want to do that for this game? Yeah, you do. And if you're coming over from Marvel Avengers Alliance, where you might have been spending $50 or $100 per month on the gold sales, this is a phenomenal value. You really want to get these two things. It is the best thing you can do. And then there are other sales that go on, the very expensive Tier 2 advancement, the Lunar Special, which people are liking and are considering worth the $20. A 6-star starter pack for about $20. And then the special packs. What a special pack is, for example here, a Nornstone Selector times 90, a Bio Selector times 60, and 3,000 crystals. When they say selectors, that means they come into you in a tabula rasa state, and you choose how you can apply them. Let's see if I have any in my mail I can show you. Ah, here. Nornstone Selector times 180. Basically, it means when I cash this in, I get to choose whether or not I want Universal Speed Blast or Combat. For these are class locked. One thing I want to point out. If you get an alternate suit for somebody that changes their class, they will always be represented in the game by their default class. So you know that my Kingpin is Blast based on the uniform that he's using. However, if I want to spend biometrics on him, he will always be referenced as Combat. Just keep that in mind in case you go looking for somebody and wonder where the hell they went. Something I want to point out. You've seen Carnage in my list. You see that I have him. You'll notice I'm not allowed to spend combat ISOs on him. That is because the game has one unfortunate thing, in that some heroes are behind a paywall. For some heroes like Hyperion and Carnage, the only way to get them is to have the 20 biometrics per day. You can cash those bios in on the paywall heroes. You cannot cash in any of the others. For dailies, you want to do your dailies every single day, as you will always get to 25 crystals, and it adds up over time. Dailies right now, and these do tend to change at times, they've changed a lot since dailies were introduced, clearing one story mission, clearing a daily, clearing a PvP, clearing a villain siege, sending assemble points to at least one friend, and clearing one special. The daily requirements are probably the easiest they've ever been. At times in the past, it was do 5 PvP. One of those dailies was not special, but it was to augment the ISOs of a hero. Basically, you had to go into a hero, any hero, every single day, go to their ISOs, pick an ISO, go to enhance, go through your list of ISOs that you had and say, I've got a lot of oranges over here, so I'm going to pick some oranges, and I'm going to sacrifice them to bump up this ISO that she has equipped. You had to do that once per day, and in all honesty, for noobs, and I mean that affectionately, I mean new players, not bad people, not bad noobs, not stupid noobs. Newbie noobs. You didn't have a lot of these to actually sacrifice, and it gets pretty tough to maintain that. I think that's partly why they dropped that as being a daily requirement. It's okay for somebody at my level, but for a new person, I think that was a little harsh. So, looking at the things you can do per day. If you are in an alliance, you do your alliance battle once per day. And these rank anywhere from being universal to speed to combat. All of the class types have a day. Then there is a supervillain day, a free-for-all day, and potentially an all-female day. I think that's in alliance battle. I can say that with 100% assurity, all the classes have a day, and then there is a supervillain day, and there is a free-for-all day. There might be an all-female day. And I don't think there is an all-hero day. Battle World changes every day. Sometimes they are duels. That is when you face a live person. Sometimes they are not. Sometimes no Battle World is up. Right now, there is a Blast Battle World and a Universal Battle World. This is you versus the AI. So here, these are my blasters. They start off good, and then they drop off sharply, unfortunately. So when you pick Battle World, you are greeted with who you will be up against, just like PvP. If you think you're not going to win, you can hit change opponent. Yeah, that's a tier 2 Sharon Rogers over there. At 60, 6 stars, 6 mastery, I don't stand a chance. This is a little bit better. I'll actually try this one. And I'll get to go show you guys what Battle World is. Battle World, when it's a duel, you're facing against another human being who is in control of their heroes. However, more often than not, you'll find that the person's connection is so bad, the computer drops them and then takes over. And it's like just this, or PvP. It's you against the AI. So, he's got a level 60 Lincoln Campbell, or I like to call Fake Thor. So my Sharon's gonna focus him down, because he's their highest one. I probably will lose this, but Sharon is capable of doing a lot of work. And since this is all blast, the rock, paper, scissors thing doesn't come into effect. So I won. And if I do this twice more, I will get 10,000 gold. Kind of a pittance. But when Battle World is over, the game mails you the Battle World rewards. And that's when doing Battle World gets really handy. So now I'm going to try the Universal. And my Universals happen to be pretty decent. These top 3 are very good. Hyperion can heal himself a little bit, which is nice. So, 50s across the board and a 60 Captain Marvel. All 6 stars, all masteried. It's rough. I fall off here. This one could be really rough, so I'm gonna risk it and do a change. This isn't much better, but that's a weak Jane Thor. That's a Loki that's not a Lady Loki. I'll try it. I don't know how this one will work. So, Battle World is not something you have to do daily, but the rewards for doing well in Battle World do add up when that Battle World is over. And that's why you want to do it. The payoff takes a little bit of time. So, I kind of want to go for their Loki over here, because he is definitely the biggest threat. Looks like I'm getting more of a chunk out of Miss Marvel. Vision at times can, just like in a lot of the other games, be rather obnoxious to hit. But it seems like I've got a solid control over this one here. My Ultron is getting a little low, which is why the screen is red. But we came out the victor and only lost one person. Since this is a separate battle world, it has separate participation rewards. Timeline is your straight up PvP. It is you against the AI. It is 3v3. The quantity of heroes you have come into play tremendously. You can see these are my hero bonuses, and they come from having every hero in the game minus the world bosses. I never hear people talking about uniforming their heroes a certain way to bump up bonuses. Like, my Kingpin is supposed to be combat, but he's blast. I don't hear people micromanaging that the way they did in Marvel Avengers Alliance, but I go into PvP with this team. It's debatable if I should put in the slightly under-leveled Sharon, but I'm just sticking with my topped-out people right now. Looking at their team, there is a Tier 2 Black Widow over there, a full-on Lady Loki, full-on Goliath. It's probably not one that I would win, so I can spend 500 gold to re-roll. This would actually be more doable. It really would. None of them are Tier 2, and I don't think these guys are considered particularly high tier. And they only have a few levels on me. That one would be worth taking. Co-op, if you have the ability to turn on auto-repeat and quick match, I've heard that auto-repeating co-op is an extremely good way to bump your gold up. Dimension rifts, you can find dimension rifts when you are out doing story missions and whatnot. If you have a good amount of friends, when they get a rift opened up, it gets announced to you. And you want to go into their rift, because sometimes in rifts, that is the only place where you can get certain people's biometrics, like, say, Loki and Destroyer. This is the lab. You can send people out on what is almost the equivalent of flight decks through the lab, but it does not consume the hero. So these 3 heroes are still available for me to use in the game wherever I want. It does not take them and move them out of my control. It is a good way to gain experience and random stuff. That's your converter, and that is your item shop. Your inventory. In order to keep your inventory clean, The three biggest areas where you can work your inventory down are your consumables, but most of these you want to use under certain conditions, so... But really, it's your custom gear, your ISOs, and your cards. If your custom gear starts getting like a little out of control, I'll show you what you can do for that. Your ISOs you've already seen, and same thing for your cards. Your cards you want to mesh together and rank them up and try to get up to something like this legendary Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, any of these like 4 and 5 star ones. You get cards from doing dimension rifts. So, if your custom gear starts getting a little out of control, and you're like, man, I have so much custom gear, how can I clean this up a little bit? Well, that, much like ISOs, is done through this. So you go to a character, go to somebody who has custom gear equipped, and you can hit Enhance, and you can sacrifice your obelisks and your custom gear and your nuggets and your injectors and all this to rank up your custom gear and eventually get better stats on it and everything. So like that's a 3, that's a 4, that's a 5. There's a 4. There's a pathetic 3, and there's just a piece of custom gear. So if you need to clean up your inventory, you can do that. You always want to make sure your inventory is relatively clean if you are doing autoplay somewhere. And that is the very best thing about this game, and that is why you want to bump up your VIP level as much as you possibly can. And that is the ability to turn on autoplay and do things hands-free. See this little repeat down here with the ticket? If this was a special or a story mission, I can hit that and the game will go and go and go and go until a limit is reached. The limit is, when you're doing story, you've gained all 5 bios for that character in that mission. So like if you're farming Iron Fist and you pick one of his 2 missions and you set it on autoplay and to chew up your repeat tickets while you're cooking dinner, the game will play the mission for you just like this until you do the level enough times that you get lucky enough to get the 5 bios. And then the game goes, okay, I've reached 5, do you want me to stop? And it waits for you. The other stop condition is a full inventory. So if I was sitting at 598 out of 600 and I set this to go on auto while I like took a shower, bad form. It would get just like one mission into it and say your inventory is full, and I would waste all that time. The biggest place where that comes into play is specials. And now we're going to get bonus rewards because I hit my 6 of 6. So last thing I'll do is show you the specials. Now, it used to be, before the most recent update, is that specials were the Guardians of the Galaxy specials and the Ant-Man specials. Well, they're gone now. Similar to the Spec Ops and Marvel Avengers Alliance 2, except these were all unlocked. You didn't need to buy a key or anything. Here, it used to have a row of the Ant-Man ones and a row of the Guardian ones. Now it's the new Avengers. When you are doing a special, and you have done any special twice, any combination, so I could do the level 50 once and the level 40 once, it says, okay, you have reached your limit for the day. Do you want to turn on unlimited mode? If you say yes, for 30 minutes, the timer starts for 30 minutes, and your auto-repeat team will go through that special as many times as it can within 30 minutes. The best way to get value out of that is to make sure your inventory is clear enough that you can do that. Because if your inventory gets full, the game stops. And if you put a tablet down and you start cooking dinner, you go out to the store, you take a shower, you know, you're doing whatever and you're not paying attention, you'll burn the 30 minutes, because 5 minutes in, it'll go, hey, your inventory's full, and it'll stop, and minute after minute after minute after minute after minute will tick down, and you're out of luck. As you can see, you can get custom gear for your specials, so if you want to start augmenting your obelisks and stuff, you want to do specials on as high of a mission as you can possibly stand. And you also get experience chips. As you can see here, down at 20, obelisks go away as a reward, and the chips dip down to level 2. If you can stomach a 60, those are level 4 chips, and that's a tier 2 obelisk, which is very, very good. So, you want to do things in your dailies, in your villain sieges, as high as possible. When you do villain siege, there is a bonus listed. You'll see bonus and 3 heroes listed. If those 3 heroes can take on that villain siege boss, do it. If they can't, just use your best heroes. What'll happen is you will be losing out on some bonus items. They're good, but maybe not always earth-shattering. What I tend to do is I go for the bonus on Malekith. On this guy, I go for the only heroes that can take him on, which are my best heroes. And then every now and then, I do the level 60 with what remains. But here, like it says, hey, you get a bonus if you bring Ronan, Yondu, and Werewolf. Yeah, my Werewolf is 31. That's not happening. My Ronan is 31 and my Yondu is 30. No way they can compete. So I would have to bring my highest people. Dailies are where you get ISOs. And that's very good for sacrificing ISOs to enhance other ones you have equipped. Specials are where you get the new Avengers. From what I know, the best of this bunch is White Tiger. Visually, Songbird looks like she kicks ass. People consider her a 1 or 2 trick pony. Wiccan has started to show up a lot lately in PvP, especially very high level Wiccans, and like I said, he's got an ability that just coats the entire ground with stuff, and it looks really dangerous. Chapter 10 and Chapter 9 are where a lot of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. people come in. And prior to that, it's very random. In terms of, you know, your classic Avengers and everything like that. So, let's say, for example, I'm farming for Kingpin. I would want to do this until I got 5. That's why you see the 0. If I was farming for MODOK bios, I would do this one. If I was farming for Elektra, I would do these 2. And that's pretty much it. That's the best tips and tricks that I can give new players to Marvel Future Fight. At much higher levels, there are of course amazing amount of things you can do at the higher levels of this game. So, for example, there's Songbird with a tier 2. If you get Songbird and you tier 2 her, you get access to Sonic Pitch. And this is this gives you examples. This is just a kind of a simulator over here. It shows you what she would be at 60 and whatnot. So this is what she would have access to at 6 stars and 6 masteries, and then if you tier 2 her, that lights up. And that's what her stats would be without ISOs. And these are strikers that will assist her. So there's a lot of higher level stuff that I don't touch on in this one because this is more for new-ish players. This right here is the current effects you get from somebody having killed a world boss. Physical attack is increased. And the last thing I want to leave you on is if you can afford a uniform for somebody, you definitely want to do it, especially if they only have one alternate uniform. The reason being is anytime you equip an alternate uniform, you get a blanket 10% increase in stats, no matter what. Some people have more than one alternate uniform, and it changes what the bonus is. For example, Black Widow's got about 3 or 4. That's normal Black Widow. That's Age of Ultron Black Widow. There's the 10% increase, but something happens to her. Changing the uniform changes the what the something happens is. For Thor, 10% increase, activation rate, 25% rate when hit, energy attack, 80% lightning damage. So, anytime you have somebody with one alt, it's generally worth it to get because of the stat increase. If it's a hero that you don't really use or like, then don't waste your money. But Loki into Lady Loki, yeah, like you absolutely want that. This one I just think is just cool as shit. I like that effect on Gamora, which is why I got it. Not that I use Gamora a lot. Captain America is another one that has a ton of uniforms. And his uniforms drastically change what he does also. Anytime you get a stun as part of an ability, that's always good. Like here, all these uniforms are exactly the same. So the only thing you're getting out of these is visual. Once you get past the original, you get the 10% increase, and then all the bonuses do the same thing. Iron Fist, he's got a couple himself. Again, nothing changes other than the visuals. But some people, like Captain America, it really changes what he does. Some people change class, like I said earlier, Kingpin. He goes from combat to blast. Which means he gets used in blast days, not combat days. So there you go, guys. There are some tips and tricks for beginners. I hope this helps you get your feet off the ground in the game. Helps you understand it. If you are maxed out in your assemble points, what you want to do is go to the store, go to chest, and buy an assemble box. If you go into your mail and you accept assembly points from friends, and they take you to the limit or over, that's okay. The game will leave anything over the 2,000 limit in your mail. So it's not like it will throw it into the garbage and cause it to be consumed. Basically, anytime I know I'm getting close to 2,000, I go and buy an assemble box, then I go back down below the limit, and then I accept my mail. That's how I do it. So there you go, guys. Hope it was helpful for you, and enjoy the game if you find yourself over here from Marvel Avengers Alliance. Peace out.